BLEACH is an amazing show that is known for its great fight scenes, banging soundtrack, and impactful characters. Characters with the will to fight any opponent. Characters with freakish strength. Characters with unorthodox fighting methods. And characters with awe-inspiring power. Characters like Kenpachi Zaraki. Now, when you think about Kenpachi, the first thing that probably comes to mind is that he radiates Black Air Force One's energy. At least, that's what comes to my mind most of the time when I think about him. But lately, as I've been thinking about him, I've also been thinking about the squad that he runs. For he's not just a beast, he is a captain of an entire squad, the 11th Division of the Gote 13. And his squad of sword fighting maniacs are sometimes dubbed the Zaraki squad. And in that squad, there are core characters that share a weakness. You see it from each and every one of them. It starts with Ikaku, and then Yumichika, and then kinda, especially from what we now know recently, Yachiru, and then obviously Kenpachi Zaraki. They all have the same weakness. And it is the fact that they, either by obligations or circumstances or any other reason, all seemingly never can go all out in any fight. And again, they're fight maniacs. They love to fight, and they love it when they can push the other opponent, to the brink, and so forth and so on. Yumichika doesn't like it when, he gets dirty in a fight, but he still likes to fight, and he still likes, the sport of it. And Ikaku likes to fight 1v1s. He finds that to be the most honorable thing. And Yachiru, she pretty much only lets the captain fight, which makes a lot of sense for Yachiru. But the other two doesn't really make too much sense unless you break it down a little bit. And that's pretty much what we're going to be doing today. But before we get into the video, if you guys don't mind, help a brother out and subscribe, leave a like, give me to like 10 or 12. I'll very much appreciate it. It'll help out the channel. It'll help me out. Keep all the videos coming along. Keep pumping things out that you guys might like to see and enjoy. And without further ado, it's your boy Pride, and let's get in depth about the Zaraki squad. And the first person that we'll be talking about out of the squad is Ikaku. For he, out of everyone else, holds back the least. He's a master of multiple martial arts because he's a fighting maniac. He loves to fight. It's his only joy in life, pretty much. So he dedicates a lot of his time into being able to fight in pretty much any situation that he can find himself in, from fisticuffs to swords, knives, anything that he can get his hands on, he will probably fight you with it. Any weapon at all. He doesn't even mind if his weapon breaks, like his polearm that he uses all the time when he's fighting a pretty good opponent. But if he could fight an opponent for a very long time, he will just fight somebody with just his sword and sheath. That's just the type of guy he is. And he also likes to fight one-on-one. He likes the honorable duel type of matches. But then there's where it kind of ends for Final Maniac. The guy that wants to go all the way to his limits and then continue fighting for long periods of time. You see, he would love to do such a thing, but he doesn't like to use his Bankai, especially when there's an opponent that can potentially one-shot KO him if he doesn't use it. Even his Bankai can save him a little bit more time, and yet he will refrain from using it if he's not in a secluded area with just him and his opponent. And some people might think that it's because, well, he wants to fight longer. If he uses his Bankai, the fight might be over too quickly and his opponent might be too weak to withstand his Bankai, so he can't have these long durations of fights. But that's not exactly the case, because his Bankai is just like him, at least personality wise. In order to use his Bankai to his full capabilities, he has to fight for extended periods of time, or he has to swing it around and gather a lot of momentum, because his Bankai is a little slow on the upkeep. It doesn't come out full power. It has to be riled up. It has to be awoken mid-fight. So it actually encourages long drawn out battles against stronger foes. As the fight goes on, he gets stronger. But Ikkaku, even though he has a good relationship with his Zanpakuto, doesn't want this to happen if there's other people around. Even when he's fighting an opponent that he could potentially beat, if he were to just go his Bankai and then, slug it out from there, he would refrain from doing so, even if it meant his death, if there's any spectators whatsoever. And that's the thing with Ikkaku. He doesn't want to go all out when a situation calls for it if he's being watched. And there are a good amount of reasons for this, but I like to think there is one reason that, again, everybody in this group also shares. It's because of Zaraki Kenpachi. That's why he doesn't like to go all out. Now, before we get into what that means, let's move on to the next person, which is Yumichika. You see, Yumichika is kind of like Ikkaku. They're long friends and known each other even before Zaraki Kenpachi showed up, but they differentiate quite a lot. Ikkaku loves his fights and all that stuff, and so does Yumichika. But Yumichika really likes beautiful things. He's a vain man who is all about the beauty and pretty much the outer appearance of things. And he berates those who are ugly and calls multiple people that he hates also ugly. But he also loves to fight and have pretty long fights himself, or test out his strength to other people. That's why he's in the Zaraki squad and why he gets along with Ikkaku. They're both fighting maniacs. But Yumichika holds back severely, for even in Shikai mode, he never lets his Zanpakuto reach its full potential, besides a few altercations just like Ikkaku when no one else is around. If there are other people spectating him, he will never show what his Zanpakuto can really do, even though his Zanpakuto, just like Ikkaku, was perfectly made for Yumichika. You see, his Zanpakuto is pretty much the representation of beauty, at least in a lot of cultures, for it represents a blue peacock, at least its transformation does, and its name. But Yumichika calls it ugly anyway. And not only that, Yumichika goes out of his way to call his Zanpakuto the wrong name, just so the Zanpakuto will feel sad and not fully bloom into its full power. And that's why Yumichika doesn't even have a Bankai, because he is constantly on bad terms with his Zanpakuto on purpose, even though his Zanpakuto is the essence of beauty. Now, again, beauty is subjective, but from all of Yumichika's actions and everything that Yumichika does, his Zanpakuto should meet the circumstances. But he hides his Zanpakuto's full power, just like Ikkaku, because of Zaraki. But more so because of the Zaraki squad, the family that they're in. He says so himself that the squad as a whole are all about sword versus sword combat, blade to blade. Any other technique or any other form like Kido is considered to be cowardly in their squad. It's looked down upon. It's a secret rule that everybody in the 11 squad holds. Even though they all know how good Kido is and how sometimes a Zanpakuto just manifests its powers in certain ways and you can't really change it, Yumichika still is fearful, or at least respectful enough to his squad, either or, that he wouldn't use a technique like that, at least in public, to disrespect his squad, even if it meant that he was going to lose the fight and die. He would rather lose and die publicly than to use his true power that can help him win a lot of fights. And now we've already established that Ikkaku and Yumichika, for one reason or another, won't use their full strength because they're part of the Zaraki squad. No other real reason than the squad is what they live by. And even though the squad is all about pretty much being the best, the strongest, or just regular strength, they will never use their real power in public. They will always hold back. They will always fight their opponent in a weaker state than what they really can be fighting, which just leaves Yachiru, who is a mystery upon mysteries. But we do know a lot about her is that the fact that she holds herself back in a way that is vastly different. For she lets Kenpachi do all of the fighting most of the time, unless he's not there personally, even though she is immensely strong in her own right, even compared to other lieutenants and maybe even other captains. So much so that she has her own Shikai form that pretty much summons even more creatures to help her fight and makes her attacks pretty much impossible to miss. Yet she never takes any fights, even small ones, while Kenpachi's there. And the reason why she doesn't do that is because she wants Kenpachi to fight all these opponents and get to his real true strength, presumably. Hey Kitten, that's what I think that she wants, because now we're at Kenpachi now. She knows that Kenpachi is holding himself back, and I think everyone else holds themselves back, including Ikaku and Yumichika, because it's another unspoken rule. I think they're holding themselves back because they all got a hint, at least to some degree, that Zaraki has never in their presence or any other time has fought at full strength. Even when he takes his eye patch off, and he leaves that thing on all the time, which already signifies that he will not out the gate fight somebody at full strength. But even when he takes the eye patch off, he's still not fighting you at his full capacity, because Zaraki Kenpachi nursed himself subconsciously, and you don't find this out until way later, until the 1,000-year war. But Zaraki Kenpachi has restraints put on himself subconsciously because he really loves to fight, to the point where he wants the fight to last longer than like a hit. But because he's so freakishly strong with all of his power, even without a Shikai or Bankai, he's so freakishly strong, 99% of the people that he's ever faced can't survive his blows. And so that ruins the fun for him. Just like Ikaku, they want long fights. They don't want to just end the fight in one hit. Both of these guys want long-winded fights. So Zaraki limit himself. And I think Ikaku and Yumichika both realize that to some degree, that's just how they like to be. All this to say that the Zaraki squad is a unified front. And really, I'm really saying is they're the biggest flexers in Bleach. Every single one of them will fight you and almost win or win. And you don't even get to see how strong they really are. Now that is a dope squad.